Can I have your attention, please? We'll be starting shortly. Good evening, and welcome to the Lowell Planning Board for June 18th, 2018. We do have 5 public hearings on this evening, so it will be a busy evening. The first matter is for a special permit at 6163 Queen Street. An applicant was submitted by Dom seeking special permit approval from the Planning Board and variances from the Zoning Board of Appeal to legalize the use of the property that was operated as a 3-family home on the above address. The building is located in the traditional multi-family zoning district and requires special permit approval from the Planning Board under Article 12, Table of Uses, Section 12.1C, for the 3 dwelling units, and also would need a variance from the Zoning Board of Appeals for minimum lot size, minimum lot area per dwelling, and front yard setback. May we hear from the applicant, please?
Good evening. My name is Dom. I'm the owner at 6163 Queen Street. In 1996, I bought the property as a 3-family. Been paid taxes as a 3-family, paid mortgages as a 3-family. Until recently, I decided to sell the property, and it came up as not legal 3-family. So I'm asking the board to continue as a 3-family.
Anything else you'd like to say? Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anybody here this evening want to speak in regards to this project? Anybody want to speak in favor or against? Anybody in favor? In favor? In favor? Anybody in opposition? In opposition? In opposition? This time I'll turn over to the board members. And the board members have any comment? We got a very good detailed report from Mr. Elves from our planning staff. Sir, did you receive the comments that we received from the planning staff? Could you just come to the microphone if you would, please? Yeah.
Yes, my name is Dennis Dung, and I'm the real estate agent. I did receive the email format of that, yes.
So the main thing was that the building department wanted to do a couple of things,
Yes.
which was, the space was only one legal means of egress, and they were going to require that he put another set of stairs in the back, and I think on the plan he decided to do that. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And then he just had a couple of small missing areas, things he wanted, what? A smoke and carbon alarm system on the front hallway.
Yes, that's already done, and the plumbing venting should be done shortly.
Any, some emergency lighting he wanted as well, right?
That is all, yes, that's also done.
So what was the plumbing, was that appliance in the basement area that they talked about?
Yes, it's like a vent from the chimney, it's loose.
Okay. So were those completed or
That should be completed shortly. That's the only thing that's not done yet. And the actual staircase, they're waiting on us to give them the okay, but we have a contractor bid already.
okay, okay. So it must have been pretty surprised when you went to sell the 3-family, found
Very
out it was a
surprised,
2,
sir.
huh?
Very surprised.
Yeah. I noticed a lot of 3-families in that neighborhood, right? Okay, all right. Yes, Mr. Snetsky?
Yes, I'm glad to hear that, you already or will be meeting all the conditions of the comments in the staff letter from the various departments. And, I only have one possible suggestion. Generally, the city does not look favorably on stacked parking. I noticed the shed on the site, and it looked a little shaky, shall we say. A suggestion I might offer, and obviously it's up to you to consider, is removing that shed, which would then give you the ability to angle the 3 parking spaces beside it, which would make access for those parties easier, and also open up a little bit of space at the end where the shed is to make access for turning from those the people that are in those two stacked spaces. Is that something that you might be amenable to?
Yes, we
Yes.
can do that.
I just, think it would make your access to what is a tight parking situation a little bit easier.
Yes.
So that would be a suggestion I would, offer, and if you're agreeable to it, we could add it as a condition of a permit, should we approve it.
Yeah, we can move that, around. There's plenty of space.
Okay, thank you. That's my only comments at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Snetsky. Mr. Malovich?
Yeah, I too I would vote for this under the condition that all those conditions that we were informed of are met from city departments. This definitely fixes a 22-year-old problem. I think the stack parking, and I think it was recommended by the DPD, that all the parking spaces be assigned to the units, so that whoever's living who's gonna have the stacked parking should be from one unit, so they can it's just like being in a home. A single-family home where you stack the parking, there's always somebody there to move cars around. So I would make that suggestion. And basically, I don't really have any problems with this.
Thank you.
Mr. Lockhart, any questions, comments?
Just about, it's item 5 on this document dated June 11th, 2011, about 18, about screening the area, the property lines of 14 Somerset Street along Somerset Street. There's an existing chain link fence, and it would be better to have a solid fence wall or appropriate plantings rather than that. Are you willing to do that? Following them,
Excuse me, I didn't get that. You remove the existing chain fence?
yes.
That's what you mentioned?
The ordinance section 6.1.8 requires the screening of off-street parking for more than 3 vehicles. The property meets this requirement with a solid wooden fence fronting Queen Street and along the property line with 65 Queen Street. However, the property lines with 14 Somerset Street and along Somerset Street only have an unadorned chain link fence. The members, we should consider requiring the applicant to replace this chain link fence with a solid fence, wall, or appropriate plantings.
That's something that could be addressed.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Fischett?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I think what, in looking at the site, and I was out there today and was just looking at the photos, on Somerset, the screening wouldn't be, because you have the chain link fence that runs alongside the home itself. So we're not talking about putting a solid fence there. But in the back, when you get to the parking area where the gate is where you would be looking at the screening. So it would screen the parking lot from the street. So again, visually, it'll look nicer. If we can start doing that one house at a time, and we start to improve the aesthetics of all the neighborhoods. And also, I have to say, I was pleased to see the amount of space you do have behind that house. Matter of fact, you have much more than I think some of the other properties around there. And I think Jared did a very good job with the memo, even highlighting other properties in the lot size compared to your lot size, and the usable open space, which you do have usable open space at the around the corner of the parking area. I would agree with my colleagues. We're all referencing the memo from Jared, more or less. The only thing and I think Mr. Sinensky was offering it as a suggestion, and I would guess I would float it out there as perhaps you can look at that with DPD, but I think the concern with the angled parking is that puts you in a position to have to back out onto Somerset or back in, so could be a challenge. At the very least, that would be the recommendations that I would be looking for from DPD with, it would be a perpetual condition where you would have to maintain the permit for the off-street parking.
That's correct.
And also assign, as Mr. Malovich referred to, assign the stack parking to a particular unit. Other than that, I think, again, DPD did a very good job articulating really the case for allowing this use or go from a two-family to a three-family. I think it more or less meets the neighborhood character, which is one of the things that we look for. And again, you have a fairly large parking area behind there, so I was pleased to see that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I have no comments. I made mine at the outset, to go along with the building department, obviously, and I have no problem approving it, as long as the conditions as indicated by the other board members. So what's the request of the board? We need a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the application with the following conditions: that the applicant comply with all requirements set forth by the building inspector, and that the applicant assign the stacked parking spots to one unit, and the applicant will maintain in perpetuity the off-street parking permit, renew that permit. And also the applicant will screen the parking area that faces Somerset Street in the parking, in the back part of the lot where the parking area is.
I'll second that.
Motion made by Mr. Bichette and second by, was it Mr. Malovich, was it?
Right.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes yes. So the motion does carry. So it's approved with those conditions. We wish you well. Good luck. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Moving along on the agenda, the next matter on the agenda is a site plan review and a special permit for 70 Industrial Ave East.
Good evening, members of the board.
Let me read the announcement, please, sir. 1 second, okay? Thank you. Let's just make another note from the last. Yeah, thank you. Okay. So the site plan review and a special permit, 70 Industrial Ave East. The application was submitted by Patriot Care Co-op for a site plan review and special permit to engage in the sale of marijuana for adult use. This project is in the high-rise commercial zoning district and requires site plan review and special permit approval pursuant to section 11.4 and section 7.10 of the zoning ordinance and other relief as required. Just as way in the background, on June 11th, we had 2 of our board members and 1 of our staff members go out and do a site visit, which was Mr. Snesky, Mr. Malovich, and Jared Ells, one of our planners. And then 2 days later, on June 13th, myself, Mr. Linehan, Mr. Fichette, and Mr. Lockhart, and senior planner Christine McCall also went out and had a site visit of the site. We were out there with Mr. Mason, and I know on our visit on the 13th, we were there for well over an hour. So saying that, we'll hear from the applicant.
All right, thank you, Mr. Linehan.
Thank you.
My name is Joe Moen. I'm the attorney for Patriot Care. As you know, Patriot Care has submitted this application for site plan and special permit review. They're seeking to add the marijuana retailer use to its existing medical marijuana dispensary at 70 Industrial Ave East. We respectfully submit that the board should find that Patriot Care has met all the criteria for the site plan approval and special permit that is outlined in the zoning ordinance. And I would just add that the location it's already located in a high-rise commercial district. It's an existing medical dispensary use. And there's going to be no additional construction on the property. We're just simply adding additional sales to its existing operations. With that, I'll cede the floor to Bob Mayerson, the Chief Executive Officer of Patriot Care, who will provide some additional information in response to the different boards' commentary. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you, members of the board, for hearing us again tonight, and thank you for taking the time to come out and visit the site to get a better feel for what happens out there. I'm joined tonight, in addition to Mr. Moen, I'm joined tonight by a number of people from Patriot Care who are a lot smarter than myself, who can answer any questions that come up if they're tough, but I'm joined by Georgia Ganis, who's our Vice President of Security. I'm joined by Rebecca Brown from GPI, who did the traffic study for us. I'm joined by Dennis Cunian, our Head of Community Outreach. Bailey Marchand over there is our General Manager of the facility. She's a Lowell native. And David Catanzano, who's our Director of Operations. Just, I know I said some of this when I was at our pre-meeting here a couple weeks ago, but I was told I needed to repeat it again, so I'm going to repeat it again.
Yep, because
I
it's a public
apologize.
hearing, right?
That way it's a public hearing and it's
Actually, we
all...
need everything done.
Okay.
Correct.
So just a little history, layout. You know, we have been operating in this a medical marijuana dispensary in this location since February of 2016. That's when we actually opened to registered patients in Massachusetts. We are very proud of our record of operation in the time since then. Just to go back actually a second, we also operate a cultivation facility, as you know, over on the corner of Lincoln and Tanner Streets. So all the cultivation and manufacturing that happens for all of our dispensaries in Massachusetts occurs at that location. We're very proud of our record here in Lowell. We've had no issues at either of the facilities that we've ever been made aware of, and I think the police department and the city manager's office would back us up on that. I'm very proud of the fact that in terms of the economic activity that we've brought to the city of Lowell, you know, we've created, we have almost 100 people working for us in those two facilities alone, and with the advent of adult use marijuana, we would expect that number to grow even further. We've been paying host fees. We have a host agreement currently in place, or previously in place for the medical facility, and we've just recently signed our host agreement with the city for that covers the recreational marijuana. So, you know, we've been a contributing member to the community. We've brought a lot of economic activity to the community. We're probably one of the largest employers already, in the top 20 certainly, of private employers in the city of Lowell. You know, in terms of our community impact, probably the best measure of how you could look at that community impact being positive is the fact that we held a community meeting back in March. You know, we had notified all of our abutters. We notified abutters in both Chelmsford and as well as in Lowell, because that's what the state requires. This was part of the state requirement to have a community meeting, and only one person showed up, someone from the Highlands Association, and she wasn't opposed. So she came to the meeting, and but no one else came. We subsequently, a week ago, had a meeting with the Highlands Neighborhood Association and made a presentation to them so that they understood kind of what we were planning to do. We met with them 4 years ago when we first came to Lowell. Maybe it was 3 years. I guess it was. It was probably 3 or 4 years ago when we first came to Lowell. We met with them then to educate them as to what we do and how we do it, so that they would get comfortable with us. And They expressed the same feeling today that they did then, that they are comfortable with our approach and how we've operated in the last couple of years there. From the security plan perspective, our security plan, as required by the ordinance, has been shared with Deputy Superintendent Richardson. George Aganis, our VP of Security, walked through the facility with the Deputy Superintendent. He took him as well over to the Cultivation Center, and I believe you've received a letter from the Deputy Superintendent with his feelings about, positive feelings about us. He said the same thing to us verbally and was very comfortable with our security system. I think when we were walking on site, I explained to you how the security system worked in terms of the overall, the physical security of the cameras and the motion, but also how that interacts with the guards that we will have, that we have on premises as well. I mentioned to you that we have our new host agreement has been signed, so that was another requirement of the ordinance, was to have that completed. We completed that a few weeks ago. And once that was completed, we were able to submit our final application to the state for adult use. And the way the law works today, if you can't submit that application unless you have the host agreement. So once we had that in place, we were able to submit our application to the state. And we're waiting to hear at this point whether they have any further follow-up questions or where we stand. So we haven't heard back from them yet. When I presented at the pre-meeting to you 2 weeks ago, you asked for two things, which I brought with me tonight. I think Mr. Malovich asked me for both. I think they both came from you, but I have with me the site plan with landscaping laid out on it. I have 7 copies if you want. I think you need, I forget how many you need, but I have plenty of copies for everybody. And then in addition to that, we have, you asked for a copy of the relevant page of the lease where it designates the fact that we have a guarantee of at least 20 parking spaces in the lot. You know, the zoning ordinance requires us to have 1 space for every 500 square feet. It's about 6,000 square feet, so we're required to have 12 spaces, and we have 20 specifically promised to us, and we have access to more. They're never really completely full, and as I mentioned to you on our site visit, our staff does park next door as well at the abutter who's allowed us to park there. There was one comment that was, and maybe I should come back to this later, but one comment that I had heard from in the comments that you've received related to our signage and the hours and so on. And I mentioned in our narrative that we're open from 10 to 8 Monday to Friday, and we're open from 11 to 6 Saturday and Sunday, but that we would like to be able to operate outside those hours potentially. But then the signage restriction is one that requires us to turn the sign, the internal illumination of that sign off at 8 o'clock each night, which is what currently happens. And I don't know whether that's something, because that was originally, is that a zoning board, or is that something that we would, I don't know, you don't have to answer it right as I'm talking, but something that I would like to just get clarification on. Is that something that we would deal with tonight, or is that something that gets dealt with through the zoning board? Because that was the comment, I think, zoning board?
I believe the answer would be the zoning board, because that's where you got your original permit.
They gave us the original permit for medical, yes.
But if that's on site and that has the signage, then you'd have to get the relief from them.
Okay. Well, anyway, so then, putting that aside, then I don't have any other prepared remarks. Do you want me to bring up these copies of this?
You give them to Christine, sure.
Give them to Christine.
There's one, they could pass it out. So basically, if I understand correctly,
Back from you afterwards.
but that's for the landscaping plan, right? Which is basically the same as what's existing out there right now, right?
Yes, so nothing is going to change. I mean, we plant new annuals in those we have those boxes, and so every year we replace those. But other than that, nothing is planned to be changed in the landscaping plan that you'll have here. And as we had discussed at that meeting, I provided you with a landscaping plan around our space. It doesn't extend around the other tenant that's at 70 Industrial, around the Segway facility on the other side, on the other side of the building. So it includes everything right around our part of the space. So, and let me just, do I stand up if there's any questions, or you?
I will bring it open to the public, then get back to you. At this point in time, anybody here this evening want to speak in favor of this matter?
This one, it's fine.
Anybody in favor? In favor? In favor? I'm all set. I got a pretty good look at it the other night, so it's good. Okay, nobody in favor? Anybody against, in opposition? We did receive one letter, let me read this letter first, and then, got a letter sent to us this afternoon at 4:43. This is to the planning board from Christopher LaValle, 10 Edgewood Street, Chelmsford. Dear members of the Lowell Planning Board, I've received notice of a public hearing this evening for the application of Patriot Care Co-op for their special permit to allow the sale of recreational marijuana in their facility on Industrial Ave in Lowell, which currently houses a medical marijuana dispensary. Unfortunately, I cannot attend in person, but I'm sending you this email to express my concern about this permit request, and I am asking that you enter this into the record for public hearing. It is my understanding that according to state law, a marijuana establishment may not be located within 500 feet of a pre-existing public or private school providing education in kindergarten or any other grades 1 through 12. Looking at the documentation submitted by Patriot Care to the city, there is a business called Panagram Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu Academy located across the street from this facility in the Mark I warehouse building. This academy is located within 500 feet radius, according to the Martial Arts Academy website. In its FAQ section, the school does not teach kids with one of the largest kids groups in New England. Does teach kids with. Well, I do not believe that this academy was in the location when Patriot Care first opened the medical dispensary. It is now there and is existing prior to this new request for a special permit for recreational dispensary, which by definition have fewer controls than the medical dispensary. In light of the proximity to the school, I have significant concerns about this application to allow Patriot Care to open a recreational marijuana dispensary in this location, and I would encourage the planning board to reject this special permit. So that will go to the record. Christine, would this be something that, when it came in on our ordinance, this type of educational facility is one that we considered, or is it more basically?
No, when we wrote the ordinance, we were thinking of elementary schools, middle schools, high schools, and the karate academy or jiu-jitsu academy per our zoning is actually considered a commercial recreational indoor facility. So we wouldn't categorize it as a school, even though it's referred to as an academy.
Okay, thank you for that. So after we now record that matter into the record, anybody here this evening want to speak in opposition of this matter?
Good evening, members of the board. My name is John Flynn. I'm the president of Transgas Incorporated, which is across the street from Patriot Care. My concern is not for security, et cetera. No complaints in that area, but specifically, excuse me, on the grounds of the increased traffic and the dangerous curve that exists right at that location. I know since I've started working there in December of 2013, the pole within 20 feet of our building's been hit twice, our fence has been hit twice, and a guy wire on the pole next to the entrance of our employee parking lot's been hit 3 times. I know that there are sometimes lines outside the building at Patriot Care, which it appears to me the parking lot is at or near capacity at those times. And also, there's a lot of truck traffic on that road, specifically our tractor trailers, Segway, and Coca-Cola as well. So I do have a concern that the additional traffic that this will drive will make the area less safe than it is today. And safety is something that's very important to us. We haul hazardous material. We don't store any or bring any to the property on Industrial Avenue East. However, our vehicles are designed to carry that load and therefore are quite complex and expensive as well. So any traffic accidents or anything that happen in that area would be dangerous for us. So I thank you for that time.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else like to speak in opposition? Anybody else? Anybody else? Anybody else? Hearing none, and I'll turn it over to board members. Have any questions?
I have,
Mr. Lockhart?
that landscaping plan, does that include any changes in lighting or the outside lighting of the parking area around the building?
No, it describes what exists today,
Okay, just as it exists today.
which has been, for all, we believe has been adequate, George,
Yeah, seemed adequate.
Yeah. So there's no changes contemplated.
Okay.
Which one did we add? On the building. Okay, but what you see there. Okay, so the one on the pole was added, but that was back years ago. That was a couple of years ago now at this point.
Okay, thank you. On this memorandum from Christine on June 18th, 2018, page 3, page 4. It's about traffic and trip generation worksheets included as attachments do not match the numbers in table 2, and some other discrepancies that are pointed out here. Can you clarify that? And
Yeah, I'm going to ask.
one other comment, excuse me. I think they may be underestimating the traffic that will be generated by being the only recreational use marijuana dispensary in 6 communities. Just address that whole question if you could, please.
Yes, I'm going to ask Rebecca Brown to speak to that, a couple of those. I'd just like to say 2 things before that. One is that in response to the notion about lines outside the door, as I mentioned to you when you were at the facility, the only time we have a line at the door is at the beginning in the morning when we open up the facility. Any meaningful line more than 2 people. Everybody has to go through that guard to get in. So, we open at 10, and a lot of times people will show up, 15 minutes before 10, waiting for us to open. Once we open and clear, the lines are not there. The other point I'll make, and then I'm going to let Rebecca answer any of your questions on trips, is that, initially we could be one of the few in the surrounding communities to have a recreational facility. But that won't last for very long. There are groups here in Lowell that will be applying for licenses. There's groups all along the 495 corridor that are applying for licenses. So that won't last for very long. But let me let Rebecca speak to your questions on the trip report.
Thank you.
So unfortunately, I don't have that memo that you're reading from, so I'm not sure what the
There you go. It's on page 4.
Sure. Just trying to find the page that's being referred to.
It's on the middle of the page 4.
So I'm looking at the numbers, so the comment is, the first one about the trips in the attachment don't match what's in the table. I'm looking at those now, and what I'm looking at does match, so I'm not sure what the discrepancy there was. But it looks like every number matches in the table. It's referring to 70 trips in and out from the attachment, but I'm showing 64 and 63 on both, so I'm not sure where that 70 is coming from. Um, Yeah, so I'm not sure what the comment is, but the numbers that I'm looking at right now match, they're identical from the attachment and from the table that's in the upfront section. So it's showing that the additional use would generate about 45 trips in the PM and 86 on the Saturday midday time period. And that is based off of the approximately 6,000 square feet of use.
Yeah.
And then, I think Bob already responded to your second comment regarding the fact that the site would generate more traffic when it first opens, but that is likely to taper off over time. The information that we did provide is based on trip rates that were collected at multiple facilities throughout the country. A number of them have been open for longer periods of time. Those come from rates from the Institute of Transportation Engineers manual, and those rates would be somewhat normalized. So those are what we would anticipate for a more long-term. There certainly would be a higher amount of traffic generated in the first 6 months or so as other facilities become opened, but I can speak just for myself. I know we're working on 4 other recreational use facilities, so these are something that will be popping up more and more as time goes on, so that will disperse some of that traffic that's
All
occurring.
right, so it is documented in your data that there is an initial impact that levels off.
There absolutely is. When it first opens and it's the only facility in the area, there will be some additional traffic, but over time, as more and more open up, it will taper off. The same thing happens with all different kinds of uses. For example, when you look at like Home Depot and Lowe's, that when those first opened in the area, those big box retail stores generated a lot of traffic. And when you look at the new rates that are published now, they're much lower because they're kind of on every corner now.
Understandable. There's one last question I have here, I guess. In the last paragraph on page 4, stated I would recommend that they go back 6 months after opening and do another traffic count to confirm their estimate. Would you be willing to do that? And
Yeah, you'd be willing to do that?
Yes, obviously, we want to make sure that we are being good neighbors. And one thing I would mention, and if you want more information, George can talk to this too, is that we recognize that it could be very busy up front, and I think I mentioned to you that without getting into too much detail on the security plan, that we currently have a guard at the front door. We would be adding a guard that will be out in the lot, making sure that people are keep on the move and keep flowing out of the facility. And if we found that we needed a police detail, which I don't think we'll need, we did that at the very beginning. In fact, we had a police detail when we first opened up, and found that we didn't need it. But if that was required to, in the early stages before that normalization happens, we would do whatever it takes to make sure that we keep everything orderly at that location for traffic and for our neighbors.
okay, thank you. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Lockhart. Any other boards have any comments? Mr. Malovich, any questions?
No.
Mr. Snetsky?
I think we've already covered, those issues, and one was the 6-month review that we had discussed at the pre-application meeting, and I think that, that would be an appropriate condition. And also, the additional security guard, which you had, spoken of, for some period of time until, it levels off and you determine, whether it's truly necessary. I think those 2 conditions would certainly. The first one was the 6-month traffic review, which we had talked about previously at the pre-application meeting, which we had all agreed that was a good idea. And also your suggestion of of offering to add the additional security person for some period of time until the level of, you determine what the level of need is, shall we say. Other than that, I think, you've got all the bases covered.
Thank you. Mr. Fischett?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just quickly, I have material here from citizen planner training and regarding the an act to ensure safe access to marijuana. And I just referencing the state requirement, buffer zone requirements, as defined by the state. It says, under the act, a marijuana establishment may not be located within 500 feet of a pre-existing public or private school providing education in kindergarten or any of grades 1 through 12, measured from lot lines of impacted property. So it clearly defines what education is intended within the act. And our zoning was designed to comply with that as well. On the issue of traffic, and I do want to thank you for the tour, and it certainly was, I think it was a worthwhile event for the board to tour the facility, because it's somewhat mysterious what goes on behind the door if you haven't been in there. And really, I commend you on how the facility is managed and how it's run. But the biggest concern still becomes the traffic, and regardless of whether it's a short-term impact, obviously we want to take all the precautions we can to address that and minimize the impact to the businesses in the area and even the residents that live just around the corner, actually, on Swan Street, and as well as the other businesses around there. So I think we've all cited the comments from the city's traffic engineer, and also the two requirements really that fall in the site plan under the new zoning ordinance is really the security plan, but we wanted that to really be addressed by the area that really possesses the expertise to review that, and it's the police department. And they are to provide us with a letter indicating that they are satisfied. And my understanding is they're in constant contact with Mr. Aganis on the security. And very important to point out in this letter, it says one will be, regarding a second security guard, one will be assigned at the door and the other guard in the parking lot to keep people and their vehicles in order. This is, I think, the key part. This plan will be assessed weekly to ensure an orderly process. So that's from the police department. So they're going to look at this weekly to determine whether or not it is sufficient and whether or not it needs to be enhanced. And then I think we're all in agreement in 6 months, because regardless, I don't think, we go through this, we've had this with other traffic engineers. Obviously, local statistics, local data is much more reliable than even national data. And we really don't know the impact that this is going to have. We're honest, and we're all sitting here honestly. We don't know the impact it's going to have when it first opens up and word gets out in the greater Lowell area, and you're right off the highway. It's a great location. It's a great location. So the only question I have, and I know when we toured the facility, is if there is an overflow for the parking, could you tell us a little bit of what the plan is at the moment? How would that be addressed?
Well, as I mentioned when we were together, and I'm going to let George, I may have George come up as well. The parking is really a function of how long it takes. So to some extent, it's a function of the number of people coming in, but it's also a function of how quickly we can move them out. And that's the job of David and Bailey, to make sure that we move people through. Our average transaction time on our busiest day, which was busiest day ever, was, the average transaction time went from 8 minutes to 12 minutes. We feel very comfortable that we have the right way and approach for kind of keeping people moving through the facility to minimize, in the first place, how long they have to actually be parked in the parking lot. I think I mentioned to you also that our staff parks over by the abutter, and some of the staff that are there today, our parent company, which I've mentioned to you, has a number of staff there. Those will be all moving to another location, so all their cars will be out of the lot. We have a guarantee in our lease of at least 20 spaces. With all those other vehicles gone, they're well over. There's probably at least double that available in that parking lot. And so, we basically believe that we can accommodate the parking with what we have available. Again, the ordinance requires one spot for every 500 square feet, so the ordinance itself only requires us to have 12. We have, at least 20, and we have access to significantly more than that.
And I'm sorry to interrupt, but could you elaborate on the access to additional parking? That's really what I'd like to really lay that out publicly.
Well, our abutter allows us to have our staff cars parked there. We've not approached them to ask for customers parking over there. We've asked them only for our own staff to be able to park there, and they've agreed to let us do that. We don't have a lot for overflow parking. Beyond that, we would have to make arrangements for that. I don't know, George, do you have any thoughts on that?
Good evening, gentlemen. So our mitigation activity.
Introduce yourself, please, sir. for the
Yes,
record.
my name's George Aganis.
Thank you.
The head of security for, I didn't want to get too loud. I'm the head of security, and to discuss the mitigation activities that we need to, if we need them, for parking involves the security presence in the lot, as we said before. What we're going to do is we're going to eliminate any kind of loitering, any kind of discussions, or anything that might go on in the parking lot with regards to, hey, Joe, I'm going to wait for you, and then I'll see you when you get back. We're going to move these people along. We have about an 8-minute span that we deal with patients and customers that come in, and in that time we move them along. Secondarily, we do have a great relationship next door at the Marriott, because one of the early things that we did, and we were asked to do by not only them but by Lowell Police Department, is to try to do something with our security infrastructure, lighting, cameras, and otherwise, that would help pay attention to what may be going on and what has gone on, as you may know, in the Marriott parking lot over the years. And that, I think you've seen, has been reduced since our presence. And there's a reason it's been reduced. It's because our cameras are such that they're picking up a broad area. They pick up loitering, they pick up vehicles that turn in after hours, they pick up all of those things. And when our cameras pick up something, there's a human being looking at the cameras, a security intervention specialist looking at the cameras. And more often than not, I could show you several incidents where Lowell Police would make a stop, for example, on the roadway right there, and then our intervention people are on the phone with Lowell Police, seeing the stop on camera, and saying to them, are you guys all set? Is there anything we could do? Blah, blah, blah. So there's a lot of collaboration that helps the area. So I know that what we've done in the Marriott lot will allow us to even engage them at a greater level to give us more space with our employees and whatnot, because we have a great relationship. Because we work with our neighbors as good as we can. Same thing with Segway. So I think we have access to more parking than even Bob realizes. But
And what would you be?
Key is move them along.
And what would you be referring there as far as, you said Segway and then more parking than Bob realizes? I'm just trying to.
I'm just saying that I think our employees can get over, even more employees can get over to the Marriott, which would open up more spaces on 70 Industrial Avenue. And I think we've laid the foundation for a great relationship there to maybe ask that question. No guarantees, but they've got that front area. We could work something out, and I'm sure something can be done there. But the key to me is to move the people out of our lot.
It is unique because, again, it will be a bump up when it first opens up, and then whatever normalize is, it'll normalize.
I agree with that.
But the idea is trying to mitigate the impact during that initial period is really.
We're going to work very hard on that. We are. And I promised the deputy superintendent that we would, and we'll put whatever resources we need out there to make sure that that happens. And I gave him my word on that, and
if it would be determined by the police department, and I think we would leave it to, as my opinion is to make it a condition, but if the police department felt the police detail was warranted, and I guess I would couple that with DPD as part of site plan, then, you would have to engage a police detail if that was required.
I'm in constant contact with everybody over there. We welcome them in. I talk to them all the time. They know if they pick up the phone and ask me to stand on the roof, I'll do it. So we do whatever they need, because we're a transparent organization that tries to do it right.
Well, and I can appreciate that, and I think based on what we've seen and based on the material, the way the operation is run, have no issue with that, but there just could be some physical limitations regardless of what the desire is. So I just want to make sure that we're taking precautions in respect to that. So I think that's going to be important to reevaluate as well.
Pay attention.
And determine if in fact something has to be done permanently at the end of the review period. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I only have two comments. I mean, I think everything's been echoed by everything else, but when we got the letter from Mr. Richardson, obviously indicated that that he agreed that one guard will be assigned at the door and the other guard will be in the parking area. So therefore, you definitely maintain two guards. And I know we talked about that at the pre-app, that, when Bob mentioned, we said it'd be a good idea to have somebody out in the parking lot. So I'm glad that that's one of their conditions. And I'm glad to see that they'll assess it on a weekly basis. So I think for security reasons and the parking, the way it's coming in, going out, obviously if you're having problems with that, the police department can help direct the traffic the way it has to go to, and which way it should go. So due to the fact that you met all the criteria under the site plan and the special permit, and as indicated by the police department, which was, when this ordinance was drafted, the main thing was to let the police department do the security concerns, because we felt they were better capable of doing that than putting it on board members. So I'm glad to see that plan's in effect. They did sign off on it. I know we received that the night that we were actually on the site plan visit. Christine had it to show it to us. It was one of the questions we had. And I would go along with the recommendation that, after 6 months, to take a look and see what the transportation issue up there is. Hopefully by then, if you make any comments on it, come back and show it to us, what's going on, how it's working out. So I have no objections to it. So.
Mr. Chairman, can I just comment to what you said? I just want to make it clear, and you do technically meet the requirement for parking for the facility. We're just trying to be as cautious as possible. But from a pure site plan definition, the requirements are met based on what the purview of the board is relative to parking. So I just want to clarify that, Mr. Chairman.
I just wanted to clarify one thing that you had said, if you don't mind. So when you were talking about, with the 6-month review and the second guard in the lot, at that 6-month review, you said something also about making it a condition of the special permit that we have the second guard in the lot at all times. So, I think that's something that would we be able to look at that in 6 months and say, is that still needed, or is it, because, as these things kind of settle out and, I wouldn't, is it going to become is it a permanent, forever thing? If we all determine that we don't need it, would that, so how would that?
The way I look at it is, it comes back from the police department. Mr. Richardson putting in there for 2 guards, if he changes it and comes back
Whatever he
to us-
says we'll do, right, and that's for sure. Okay.
So if he says, in his
Okay.
memo, it says the 2 guards.
Yep.
So,
Okay, I just wanted to
so
clarify.
it's 2 guards until he says otherwise, is the way I interpret it, So whether, after monitoring on a period of time, if he feels later that it's a 1 guard and the safety plan's with the police department, if that came to our attention, he says, after this period of time, we only feel that the 1 guard is necessary, then we look to the police department to enforce the safety. You know, 'cause I know we mentioned it, but I'm saying if he's saying that there'll be two, and you agree with that, and then if he wants to change that, he can always come back and let us know. But as it stands now, to be in compliance with the site plan or special permit, you'd have to have the two guards, because that's what's requested under the special permit by the police department. So that's their request, and they take care of security, so if you don't comply with their request, then you'd have an issue with getting your permit, because you wouldn't have met the criteria with the police department. So I'm saying he's the one to put it in there in writing, so we mentioned it, but since he put it in there, like I say, so if he wants to amend it, it's totally up to him. And if, like I say, if you're meeting with him on a regular basis, and it goes down, I mean, maybe you go down to one, maybe after a while he feels you might need three, so.
I just want to clarify, I'm not opposed to it at all.
Okay.
It's just that and I'm not so sure he was completely clear on this, and that's why he said weekly. It was more designed that in the early stages, just to address the things that we said, we would put a guard in there for mitigation activities for the parking lot. If things all of a sudden quiet down and we're kind of back to where we are, you know, then the discussion was, if we're back to where we are, then we go back to the one guard. I don't think, and I'd have to ask him, and you could leave it with, as you said, leave it with him and I to come up with it. But if we make it a condition to say we have to have two guards, we might be having two guards for nothing, because there could be another place opening up tomorrow in Lowell and over there. And I don't know if that's really fair, only because we might not need it.
What I'm getting to is this here,
Right,
we have no control of.
yeah.
So
And
if
it
you-
says we will discuss it on a
Up to God.
weekly
So, like I
basis.
say, if he wants to amend it, that's fine with him.
Okay,
But he's the one who came out and typed it up that way. He felt that meet this criteria. He indicated, you know, if you're on a weekly basis talking to him, he gets to one point, he wants to submit a letter to us saying that one's fine, then that's totally up to the police department.
okay, great.
I'm sorry, Christine, you have a question on that?
Yeah, this is a point for me. So if there's a change in the security plan, whether it's week to week based on their meetings, you want Deputy Richardson to submit a letter to me and I'll share it to you. Would you want it immediately to be on an agenda or as a other
No,
business?
You
or
can
just
forward
as a?
that to us, and we can pick it up as our other business.
Okay.
If we had a question with it, then we could go from there.
Go from
But
there,
it'd just
okay.
be a follow-through as requested by the special permit, that this is what the police department thought
Okay,
was necessary to make it secure. If they feel that, one way or another, because, you know, we're always looking to make a project better.
Sure.
So any additional information, once it starts up, and information comes in, of course, we know more about the situation at the time. He feels more comfortable about it. If he wants to keep it at 2, reduce it, increase it,
Yeah.
we're gonna rely totally on them, because we can't set that criteria, as the ordinance says, it's totally up to the police department. So I don't see a problem with it. I think communication with them, if he comes back and tells us otherwise, and if you speak with him regularly, I don't see a problem with him saying, okay, we've accomplished that. Or if he says,
Yeah,
I
and
think we
I-
need more, so, but I'd say,
Right,
for the time being, this is what controls, and obviously, we can amend anything according to their request.
Good communication. We'll be in touch with him.
Okay?
Thank you.
So, that's all I have to say on those matters, so.
Excuse me, can I ask one more question?
Sure.
So after the 6-month review, what's the forum for
What they will do is, they.
looking at that?
The traffic department is requesting that they give us another updated traffic count in 6 months to see how the traffic situation is. So that'll be submitted to us they can ask it through the applicant will give it to the traffic engineer, and the traffic engineer could either approve it or not, or send it to us for a vote by the board.
So it'll be part of a public hearing?
It could be, depending if the traffic engineer gets those traffic reviews and they're satisfied with it, it may not be a public hearing.
Okay, is that document available for public review?
It would be, yep. If we make that a criteria and they want a new traffic study within 6 months, and we make that criteria, that should be applicable, and they should have it here by the traffic engineer, yes, sir.
Okay, and just, who would I get in touch with if I need that information? Okay, thanks.
I mean, so that was a recommendation that they proposed to us?
Thank you.
You're welcome, sir. So at this time, what's the request of the board? We need 2 votes, because we have a site plan and a special permit.
Mr. Chairman, I'll would you like to take up the site plan first, or?
Sure, that only needs 3 votes, the special permit needs 4, so we just go with the less restrictive to start.
So, Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the site plan with the following conditions: that the applicant will perform a updated traffic count 6 months after opening, to confirm estimates and update the transportation plan accordingly, satisfactory to DPD, and that the applicant comply with the security plan and in relative to site plan and traffic flow per the security plan, will assign a second guard to the parking lot and/or a police detail if required by the Lowell Police Department in conjunction with the Department of Planning and Development. And this plan to be revised accordingly based on recommendations by the Lowell Police Department.
I'll second the motion.
Motion is made and second on the site plan. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Chair votes yes. So we have 5 votes in favor of the site plan and none against, so the site plan carries. Now we need a vote for the special permit.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the special permit with all the same conditions that were applied to the site plan.
Okay, so we have Mr. Nastesky made the motion,
I'll second.
second by Mr. Malovich. All in favor, say aye.
Aye?
Aye.
Chair votes yes. So that matter is voted in favor as well. Good luck, we wish you well. Again, thanks for the site visit, it was very informative.
Very interesting.
Okay, moving along on the agenda, we have a definitive subdivision, 27 Stratham Street. The applicant has submitted by 27 Stratham Street LLC for definitive subdivision approval at the above address. The applicant proposes to subdivide 21,714 square foot lot into 3 single-family lots and extend Stratham Street approximately 250 linear feet. The applicant is seeking waivers to propose a street width of 20 feet and a proposed granite curb on one side of the street. The parcel is in the traditional single-family zoning district. It requires approval by the planning board under Lowell subdivision of land regulation and for any other relief required under the Lowell ordinance. And we hear from the applicant, please. Good evening, Matt. Yeah, we made it inside on time. This is our open night for the spinners.
I got my tickets in my bag, so you go to the game if you want. It's gonna be pouring though. If you do, I got my tickets. Well, it's gonna be too late.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Matt Hammer with Lamplex Engineering and Surveying, 12 George Street. And we're here this evening for a definitive subdivision plan application, as well as 2 waiver requests to the subdivision regulations. As you recall, we've been in front of the planning board for a preliminary subdivision review. We took all of the comments provided at that meeting and have incorporated them into this new plan that you have in front of you this evening. To get everyone on locus again, we're a proposed extension of an existing roadway, Stratham Street, which is at the intersection of Morton Street. The property address, which has an existing single-family dwelling, is 27 Stratham Street. So we have Morton Street here. The acceptance line of Stratham and Morton is located right here. This portion right here, which is the existing paved roadway, is maintained by the city. There's existing utilities within that, within this area, but right now that is unaccepted. But it does have all the utilities to provide utilities to 27 Stratham, and also an entrance to a garage that's part of the property to 66 Morton Street. As I said, this is the existing pavement in this wooded area here, and then this wooded area out in the rear here. And then there's a couple planters and some fencing here. The terrain is gradual here, and then it turns and goes down to the railroad that's to the south of the property. We've also done an array of test pitting that's also shown here as well. What we're proposing is to extend Stratham Street to create 2 additional building lots. So we can create 2 additional building lots by improving the street. And then that street would then be petitioned to the city to become a public street. This is the proposed roadway here. I think I'm going to put up the rendered image. It's a little bit more clear to see. Before, when we were before the board, if you recall, we had a proposed turnaround here between the lots. And what we're doing now is extending the road down to this location and providing a fully conforming turnaround at the end of the roadway. We're going to maintain the existing vegetation here along the existing part of the roadway. And the roadway is going to sheet flow to the north and have an open, what we call a country drainage system that'll come down to this point here and extend over into this area here, which I'll show you in a minute. These are the proposed building locations. We're going to be proposing a sidewalk up to meet the existing sidewalk up on Morton Street. There were some comments about bringing the existing sidewalk areas at Morton and Stratham Street to be handicap accessible, which we most certainly will do. And we're also proposing 8 shade trees that are going to be located here. And those are these 8 bold trees that are shown here. And all those will be the minimum of 8 feet tall that was also mentioned in the comments from DPD, which we received today. Each proposed dwelling will be service to the existing sewer, in the water, the utilities, as well as the gas already in the available in this portion of Stratham Street, and those details are included in the plans. We're also going to have a proposed location of a hydrant here. which will also serve two functions. One is to flush out the water lines and also to provide an additional hydrant. This is the grading sheet. As I said before, the grading is going to go through what we call a rain garden drainage best management practice configuration, where the water sheet flows off. It goes through a filter system. It goes into a swale, then goes into a overflow weir here. And the same thing happens on the end of this T turnaround. It goes through a rain garden system here to an infiltration with an overflow. Do you want me to go through the comments that were received?
Sure, you would think so. Just, you hit a couple of them already, so I'll just checking them off as you were going, Mr. Hammond.
Might as well.
Sure.
So the commentary portion of the DPD comments lists out the two waivers. A typical street would be 28 feet in width, and we're reducing that down to 20 feet in width. That is actually better for maintaining a road because you can have less pavement to take care of. The other is because of our country drainage system that we're proposing, we're not going to have curbing on the other side of the street. There'll be curbing against the sidewalk side, and the other side will be sheet flow. The second comment is that we are not in a floodplain. We've the third comment is that we had a site walk to go over the trees that are going to be removed for the project. And where this project is coming down in one direction, we cannot avoid removing the trees to build this roadway here. So we went over that. We staked out the edge of the right-of-way, as well as there's an existing fence line out back that serves to separate half of the paper street from the abutter, which is the cemetery, and they actually have a fence along here. We're actually not going to be disturbing that fence line. We were able to get the T turnaround in so we wouldn't have to disturb that fence. There have been a few trees that have been taken down in the right-of-way, but those trees have been taken down in a location where they would be coming down for this roadway. As I said, this whole portion of the project here, these trees will remain, and we're going to have all these trees up at the upper end of Stratham Street to remain that are there now. There is reference to Appendix A of the City Lowell Code Ordinance, Chapter 260. I did look over that ordinance. I do know that in the subdivision regulations, we are to protect natural trees, and we've been trying to do that to the extent feasible. We're protecting trees up in this location here, and we're going to be protecting trees down in this corner here. And also in the subdivision regulations, they talk about shade trees and incorporating shade trees into the project, and we have done that by proposing the 8 shade trees. There was some discussion at the last meeting that we had about an easement related to the T turnaround. And in order to get the turning radius acceptable for the fire truck, this little corner of this parcel, we could have put as an easement. So we're fine with having that as an easement, but we thought at the last meeting that it was not something that the board would want to have an easement. So we were going to create a non-buildable parcel on this corner so that it could just go to the city, so that there would be no easement related to this little triangle here. We thought it was easier for the city to just take that non-buildable parcel so that the entire turnaround would be completely within a land that would be accepted by the city. Like I said, we're fine with it being an easement, but that's the way we proposed it. And if it needs to be a condition to put it as an easement, as it was mentioned in the comments, we're fine with that. The DPW commissioner recommends a guardrail to protect the chain link fence, which would be located right here. And we have no issue with putting in a guardrail there as a condition.
So what would you put them at? He says what, commission, a guardrail, a barrier of a sort, so what would you put in? I'm sorry. I was just.
We would put a guardrail here.
Okay,
Yeah. And that's really meant to stop the plows from just pushing the snow onto his fence and knocking
You
his
have no
fence.
problem with that, okay, yep.
Yeah. The planning board may want to discuss signage at the infiltration basin and rain garden on the northern side of the property that would prohibit dumping. We most certainly can put up a couple signs that would be a deterrent for anyone who would want to dump anything. And the nice thing is once we have this roadway built and we have the homes there, I'm sure anyone living in that house will be well aware of anyone dumping anything on the roadway. But we can most certainly put that signage in. We were proposing to have one light pole, which is located here. Where this is just a small subdivision, I don't know if, sometimes lights can be a distraction to the homes, depending on the type of subdivision it is. But we did propose one. If there needed to be one more, we could do that. But I would think in a subdivision as small as this.
Where's the light pole gonna be? I'm sorry, I was
It's
looking at the notes.
right here, Chairman.
Okay. So between the two new houses, basically?
Yeah. Yep. Again, I had mentioned before about the handicap ramp requirements, where most certainly will do that.
I think you missed number 11 about a bond.
Oh, the bond, yes, before the release of any lots, if the roadway is not constructed, we'll put up a bond.
Thank you, okay.
13 was the handicap ramp requirements on the sidewalks.
That's what you mentioned earlier?
Yep.
Okay. You have no problem with that?
Nope.
Okay, thank you.
Number 14 keeps alluding to this porch, which was non-conforming on the existing house. On our plan, we have it to be removed,
Okay.
so that will not be a setback issue when we go to record the A&R subdivision
You
plan.
mentioned at the preliminary that you're gonna take that down, right?
Yeah, that's proposed to be raised. Proposed condition, the applicant will prepare a bond to the satisfaction of the DPW and the city engineer's office prior to receiving any occupancy permits. We're agreeable on that. Water department had no problem with the extension of the water line. Just references a specific hydrant manufacturer, which we most certainly will provide to meet the city specifications on the materials for the hydrant. Solid waste and recycling, we will make sure that it complies. I know that the city's coming up with a new solid waste and recycling ordinance related to the color and the type of trash totes, and we'll comply with that. Building drainage concerns, that were previously noted have been addressed, so there's no further comments at this time. Stormwater comments from LRWW will be sent separately. I can tell you that I have met with briefly the sewer department, and they had told me they did not have a problem with the drainage the way it was proposed. They've seen that drainage a number of times through the course of the preliminary plan that we provided as well. So that was a comment. And then comments from the DPW Commissioner and Tree Warden we submitted separately. These comments were specifically addressed trees taken down in the right-of-way. Again, the trees in the right-of-way, he mentions, there were some trees taken down here, but those trees were going to come out regardless. We have no other place to put the road. So when we discovered that this had happened, we immediately put in these 8 shade trees as a proposed condition down the roadway, because I think at the end, that's what this would have looked like, because we commonly have put shade trees down the extension of roadways. So we have them located here. There's even an existing, I believe it's a dogwood, if I'm not mistaken, out in front of the existing house that we would remain as well. And just a small note that I noticed, the city does have a tree protection ordinance. And this ordinance is specific to trees in a public way, so when we're doing projects and we're doing curb cuts, we're mindful of existing trees in the right-of-way. But remember, this isn't a right-of-way yet. It's not a public right-of-way. So we're an extension of the roadway to construct a roadway in order to create the 2 lots. These trees here that are existing on a roadway that was currently maintained by the city, we are going to leave all those trees there. So we are going to protect all those. But in order to accomplish the reduced width of the roadway, which results in less trees taken down, and the country drainage, which provides, I think, a more green-friendly drainage system, we're trying to protect the trees as much as possible. And the trees that we will propose will meet that shade tree requirement, which is the minimum 8 feet, which was also noted in the DPD comments. And I can hand it to the board?
Thank you.
Yep.
At this point in time, I'll turn it over to the public. Anybody here this evening want to speak in favor of this project? Anybody in favor? In favor? In favor? Anybody in opposition? In opposition? In opposition? Hearing none, I'm going to turn it over to the board members. Before I do, I'm going to ask Christine just one question. Christine, in regards to that, the parcel A, the difference between, the easement instead of leaving it as is, staff feels better just to give the easement?
That's my understanding, that that's the preferred, than just a little weird unbuildable lot.
Okay. So that easement would go to the city, I take it?
Yes.
All right, that's the only question I have, okay. So just tell me, any of the board members have any questions?
I have one regarding the turnaround. We've gone through that with the fire department, and they're okay with that?
Yeah, the fire department has received plans, and we have not received anything from the fire department, but I can say that this turnaround complies with the City of Lowell's subdivision regulations for turnarounds. We have run it through the software to turn the vehicle around, and we have the city's specific ladder truck requirements, and it complies with the turnaround software that we use per the city's truck. We most certainly could make it a condition for us to get that final from the fire chief, but again, this
I think that's important.
yeah, this turnaround does comply with the city requirements.
Plus, you indicate you do have a hydrant down the end anyways, they have to come straight in, right, and back out? They don't pump it off the hydrant there, right?
Yeah, they can turn around and they can connect right up to the hydrant on the side.
That's all I have.
Okay. Mr. Malovich?
Yeah, I just have one question. You'd mentioned there is one street light in front of the first new building. I would like to see a street light at the turnaround, because
Want to just move it to the end?
Oh, you want one additional?
one additional
Additional towards the end. Okay.
there, because that could be a hangout for someone. And the more light you put there, the better off it is.
Okay.
So move one down pretty much towards the end by the third house, like, towards the end there?
Yeah,
Okay.
to light that
Oh,
turnaround.
a second light pole, okay. Anything else? What?
No, that's all I had.
Dick?
I believe the others have addressed my concerns. Thank you.
Mr. Fischett?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I'd like to commend the applicant for listening to our comments at the pre-application hearing regarding the turnaround, because unfortunately, it's more common than not for an applicant to come before us for pre-application, show us what they have, get comments, and come back with the exact same plan at the public hearing. So I will commend you for that. And I do believe the easement, when we were having that discussion, it was because, if you recall, you had a turnaround straddling two lots, and you had, homeowner over here, homeowner over there, creates, and I think the chairman did a good job articulating what, from just a marketability perspective as well, just having that. So, so reference to having an easement on the turnaround, I think it meets the spirit of what we were concerned with. Obviously, there was some miscommunication with the trees out there. I can certainly understand what you were saying regarding, the right-of-way, the trees have to come down and put the road in, but it appears to be some sort of a disconnect with whatever the meeting was out there based on the staff comments. I certainly would be looking at a condition that there would be a second meeting out at the site with the tree warden and DPD to finalize a planting plan and landscape plan to their satisfaction. Like I said, we weren't privy to the meeting, not quite sure what happened, but certainly I think that would be appropriate. I went out there and walked the site today. There's still an awful lot of trees on the opposite side of.
Yeah, there is. Yeah.
Of the.
Well, we told him to stop,
Yeah.
and he did stop.
Yeah, no, I certainly saw that. But obviously, again, there was some sort of, somebody feels there was a disconnect there, so I think that would be appropriate. And then the drainage, just to clarify, country drainage is basically just pitching it and draining it. Is that correct, or is that?
Yeah, it goes through a stone infiltration system to clean out some of the suspended solids, and then it travels over what they call a filter strip to help clean the water even more. And then it travels down a swale that'll be along the lot line. And
Did
then
the
it'll-
engineering department, did they sign off on this? Christine did?
Sign off on the drainage
Yeah,
plan?
yeah,
So we did have initial comments from wastewater utility, then we've had follow-up comments
right.
that Pat received today, saying that the folks from wastewater have concerns with sewer line location and stormwater infrastructure, and they would like further clarification, and that was one of the things they wanted to discuss at that on-site meeting.
Okay, so it
And
would,
then they did cite the DPW commissioner. We don't have a city engineer right now, but he is PE, so he's been sort of filling in on some of those comments.
okay, so certainly we'd make that subject to
Sure.
final approval by engineering. And then it was commented regarding the fire department, obviously, we'd want to have this their final sign off on the turnaround and the street. I have no problem with the sidewalks on one side. I think it would actually look foolish to have sidewalks on both sides of the street over there. And then from a drainage perspective, it's gonna create some issues. So, I think it's appropriate for what we're looking at here. It's actually what a great little location. It's, you know, I didn't know it existed till the plan came before us some time ago. I think the homeowner was looking to do something with the road, with the park that's just down the, you know, just up the street. So from that perspective, I think it's appropriate for the location. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Sure. Obviously, I like this plan better than the last one because you have the turnaround at the end. I think it's much better than having the ones on the individual lots. Besides that, that was my main concern, which like I said last time, I was more concerned about that than anything else. I have no problem with the 2 waivers. I have no problem with the street side width being in the curbing on the one. It seems like Matt hit everything else on the list, so I have no problems with that. I know he said he's okay to put the extra light in the fire department review. I have no problem with any of that. And if, you know, with the city request that they give it the easement on parcel A, and that's easy enough. I mean, that's not gonna make a difference to the lot itself. So I have no problem putting the easement there on the very end. And, yeah, everything else you indicated you do on the list, so I have no problems with it. I think it's gonna be a nice site, so. I have no problem with it. So at this time, what's the request of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the subdivision plan with the following conditions. The applicant is to meet on site with the city's tree warden and DPD to develop a final landscaping plan and tree planting plan as a result of their meeting. It's subject to the drainage plan being approved by the city's engineer, or the engineering department. That the applicant grant the city an easement for the location of the turnaround, subject to the approval of the city's fire department. An additional pole location to be located at the turnaround, that the applicant install a guardrail or barrier, subject to approval by DPD, or satisfactory to DPD, in the city's DPW commissioner at the end of the turnaround. The applicant to install signage prohibiting dumping at the location, and signage location to be finalized by DPD. The applicant shall prepare a bond to the satisfaction of DPD and the city's engineer's office prior to receiving any occupancy permits. Mr. Chairman, Christine, is there anything else that,
I have one more.
I think basically what you're adding is number 8, 9, 10, 11, 12,
Right.
all in Christine's memo.
yes.
13 for the, and also for the sidewalk on,
Oh, the handicapped
yeah.
accessibility.
That's number
handicapped
13.
Yeah,
And then
handicap
14 would
accessibility.
be the other thing which they agreed to.
Yep.
So if you want to just mention them 8 through 13, by reference to Christine's memo, I'm sorry, Patrick's memo, I apologize. Yes, right, Terry?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So I think some of them are all in there, like the light pole was number 12, but I think what he was going on was number 8, the guardrail and the barrier, they said they're gonna do the guardrail in, guardrail, the rain garden they talked about, the bond is duplicated twice, the light pole, 2 of them, fire department, the engineer, handicap, which, Mr. Hammond said they were okay with that. They talked about the variance, but they were gonna remove the deck, so they don't need that. You had the bond, and then, and the first 2 were different with meet with the site plan
Correct.
landscaping and the drainage plan, correct?
Correct.
And what was that, Rich, you had, was that another one? I'm sorry. Are you?
No,
oh,
I was
was it
just
covered in that lot?
just gonna mention the handicap requirement.
So that was number 8 through,
We're all
we
set.
put those down, 8 through 14, is that acceptable, Jerry?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah, we should, let's cover it.
okay. So, do you have any question on Jerry's motion, without comment? I'd have thought if he put it in the way you, whether proposed, it's just.
I think the last time I did that, Mr. Chairman, they wanted to list them out, so.
I think you did, and then we got them all that way, so.
What about the straight width? We're gonna
Yeah.
vote on that. Well,
Yeah, I mean, the waivers, so we accept the waivers?
Oh, yeah, okay.
Right, Jerry?
Yes.
Did you mention 2 waivers as
Yes.
well? Okay.
Yeah.
So we do have a motion before the board. Do we have a second?
Yes, I'll second the motion.
Motion is made and second. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Chair votes yes, so the motion carries for the approval of the subdivision. Good luck, wish you well.
Thank you very much, Chairman.
Good project, yeah, that's nice,
I think it's gonna look nice.
definitely is.
Good luck. You're welcome.
Nice project.
You can set that up while I read the announcement, if you don't mind, sir. Thank you. Sure. Thank you. Oh. Thank you. Let's see. Okay, gotcha. Yeah, I'm familiar with this thing, yeah. Yep. Okay, moving along on the agenda, next matter we have is a site plan review and a special permit for 78-90 Lakeview Ave. An application was submitted by GDS Enterprise, Inc., seeking site plan review and special permit approval to redevelop an existing building and a lot into a new Domino's restaurant at the above address. The parcels are located in the urban mixed-use zoning district. It requires site plan review under section 11.4-23 for proposing the building more than 14 parking spaces, and special permit approval under section 6.155 for reduction of off-street parking, as well as approval as requested by the Lowell zoning ordinance. May we hear from the applicant, please?
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. For the record, my name is Brian Melissi with Whitman and Bingham Associates, here representing GDS Enterprises. With me tonight is Jeff Schembeckler of GDS Enterprises, along with Brian Wilburner of Wilburner Construction, who's going to be the general contractor on the project. You may recall, I believe it was May 7th or so, we were in front of this board for the pre-application hearing for this project. The property is located at 78 and 90 Lakeview Ave, which is located on the board here. Lakeview Ave is at the top of the plan. The VFW highway is located on the bottom. The existing building is located in the brown outline here. The existing building is roughly 6,000 square feet, of which about 2,890 of it we're going to upfit into a Domino's restaurant. The building is the old location of Larry's Comics, and in this location here, there was also an automotive repair facility, I believe. The automotive repair facility had a paved parking lot on number 90 Lakeview Ave, where he would store his vehicles for his business. The proposal is to, again, upfit roughly half of that building to a Domino's restaurant, and enlarge the existing parking lot in order to accommodate 19 parking spaces. Very briefly, we are serviced by municipal water, municipal sewer. We don't expect to have to change any of those services to fit the building. We do have retrofitted the site with an on-site stormwater system comprised of a series of catch basins with hoods and a subsurface recharge facility. I get into that a little bit later. If you remember from our pre-application hearing, one of the comments came that said they wanted us to kind of look at angled parking here to see if we could fit some more. The original proposal, dimensionally speaking on the parking lot, we met dimensional requirements that we could have a two-way entrance and exit. We looked at some angled parking, figured that we didn't get any more parking. However, what we did end up doing is changing into a one-way in and a one-way out. We think it fits the site fairly well. Our dumpster is located at the lower portion of the parking lot here, located in this yellow box. Site, one of the board members at that pre-application hearing had brought up what we had designed the parking lot for. It's designed for an SU-30, which is a truck of a 30-foot wheelbase, certainly big enough for a trash truck to be able to pull right in, head in, grab the trash, dump it, and then be able to make the sweep out without having to back up onto Lakeview Ave. The package, this is just a kind of a crudely colored up plan that's included in your package. However, within that full site plan, we do have a lighting plan. We have 4 light posts that are going to go within the parking lot area here, and there's a photometric plan included there that shows that we don't have any light spillover. There's a landscaping plan that calculates the amount of landscaping required, and the fact that we do meet it, we exceed it. There'll be several trees placed in the median here. Along the VFW highway here, we have 3 for some screening. And the original plan called for a vegetative or a green screen along the abutter here to 110 Lakeview. When we do get to the comments that we did receive from staff, there was some comment about that green screen, and after discussions with the client or the applicant, he's willing to get rid of that green screen and put up a solid fence. And we'll get to that comment when we get to it. What I did here in yellow, just to kind of make the contrast, is along Lakeview Ave, there is an existing concrete / bituminous concrete sidewalk system here. We propose a sidewalk of our own here to connect onto the existing sidewalk out on Lakeview to be able to come and access the doorway, the main entrance to the building, which would be down here. At the pre-application hearing, we were asked to look into maybe putting a crosswalk in across Lakeview Ave. There is sidewalks located on the northerly side of Lakeview Ave, so we did do that. One of the pictures I showed you, we'll get to it, is we've kind of aligned our sidewalk, the crosswalk with our sidewalk, and conveniently it goes into an area where there's, it matches up into the parking area across the street to the convenience store. I think I was very quick, but in a nutshell, that's our proposal. and sitting through some of the other meetings. If it's okay with you, Mr. Chair, maybe we'll jump right into the comments, or I can go to questions.
No problem, sir. Yep.
So really, the first comment, and it's kind of one of the bigger comments, was number 2, where the planning staff had said that repurposing vacant or underutilized spaces meets with at the Sustainable Lowell 2025. We believe we're creating a very nice-looking building, a very, put it back on the tax rolls to a kind of a blight. It's kind of an ugly building right now. However, he brings up the point that he wants us to discuss the location of the main customer entrance, which is down here. The applicant and Jeff worked with his architect a great deal in trying to come up with the best design for this building and how it would work. Probably 95% of his business from the Domino's business is delivery. People call in or call in online and it's delivered. About, I should say 65%. 35% of the building, of the business, people come in, park, they order their food and they leave. Mr. Alves pointed out that Lakeview Ave is a two-way street with concrete sidewalks on either side, but we would like to point out that down this end of Lakeview Ave, it gets fairly tight. Matter of fact, we went out and looked at it today. I've been out on site several times, and without activity around here, there's always people parking on the sidewalk. It's just one of the pictures that we showed you. That was just taken today. And we do feel, I've been out here a couple of times. I do park legally. I want everybody to know that. But when you're stepping out of your vehicle on Lakeview Ave, it's a little bit hairy. And so we figured the best and the safest way was to get our customers in the parking lot, direct them to our entrance here, and then they can leave. I should say that we are beautifying or bettering all the facades on the building, so it's not like we're forgetting the facade on Lakeview Ave. And some of the architectural plans that I did hand out will show that. As you had mentioned, we are here for a special permit as well to get a reduction in the number of parking spaces. Mr. Elvis kind of puts that into his comments. We do not fall under the definition of a fast food restaurant, and thus the zoning, the parking calculation would be one spot for every 50 square feet. At the 2890 square feet, in order to meet the zoning code, we would need 58 parking spaces out here. However, under that section 6.1.5, it used to be the zoning board, but now it gives the power to the planning board to reduce that parking load to up to one spot for every 500 square feet, in which case we would only need 6 spaces. We have proposed 19 spaces here, which gives us I believe it's equates to one space for every 145 square feet. So we're well below what the zoning code allows the planning board to give us as a reduction. He does point out, and we went through it through the pre-application hearing, Mr. Schemblecker owns a couple of other Domino's in the city, one over at Mammoth Road, 77th Mammoth Road, another one on Chelmsford Street, and he does own the one on Bridge Street, which will be closed when this goes under operation. And he puts some of the numbers there for the board to look at. We do feel it's the request is in keeping with the zoning. We do think it's proper for this size facility. The Chelmsford Street store has a fairly big parking lot, 36 spaces, and it's always half empty. It's really very underutilized. Mr. Alves brings up a discussion during the pre-application hearing that suggested designated the 2 parallel parking spots down in this area here for delivery drivers only. After discussion with the client and the owner, he would rather not designate those. However, if it's really the difference between an approval and a non-approval, we certainly can do that. He goes on to talk about the streetlights, we just talked about that, and at the end of the memo was a dozen items from the building department. We'd like to point out to the board that most of those are really related to the building permit application. We would certainly take care of those, we would certainly have to take care of those, but we would certainly do that at the building permit stage. I can bore you to tears a little bit more on the stormwater system, but I guess I'll do that after, if anybody has any questions. So again, I know it's brief, but...
Thank you. Thank you very much. At this point in time, anybody here from the public want to speak in favor of this project? Anybody in favor? In favor? In favor? Anybody in opposition? In opposition? In opposition? Hearing none, at that point, I'll turn it over to the board members. May I have any questions?
I have one question.
Mr. Malovich?
Thank you. VFW Highway, there's a sidewalk running along that. Is there?
There's not.
And that's the corner where your main entrance is.
There's no access from VFW Highway. Matter of fact,
Fence
there's a
there?
chain link fence that's owned by the state or whatever.
That's
So,
what I thought.
yeah, so there's no access there at all.
Just wondering,
There is a sidewalk, I apologize, there is a sidewalk there.
You say there is a sidewalk on the VFW
so
highway?
someone walking that sidewalk could get access to your facility?
No.
So why put the corner, the entrance to that corner?
It's actually, I mean, it's closer to the VFW highway, but it's the facade here that we're looking at, which is gonna face the parking lot. So the access comes in, and it was the better design. We have a little bit of a plaza area here, made of some concrete, a large sidewalk area, if you will. You come park, you'd be able to walk right in. It was the better way to access the building. There was an overhead door, I think one of the pictures that I showed, there was an overhead door here, where the,
Is it that one?
yes, I believe that is it, where the, in one of the other, from the Google photos as well, I think you might be able to see it. They're gonna keep that overhead door for deliveries and whatnot.
Where's this facade?
That would be the facade here along the VFW. So when someone's coming down the VFW, if you can see on the right of that, here, it would point you to the lake, parking off of Lakeview Ave.
So
And
they see that from, what's the facade facing VFW Highway? This
Yeah,
one?
you can, go ahead, Bob. Fine, I'm sorry.
Is this facing VFW Highway?
Correct. You see where he's got the sign that's pointing to the Lakeview Ave parking?
Yeah.
But a person that just went through the light is not gonna see that parking, they're gonna see the dominoes and go, oops, and they have to go all around Lakeview Ave. No pedestrian access to that corner, and it's a poor, I don't get it. But I'm not in the pizza business. I just don't get it.
Any other questions, Bob? Oh,
No, thank you.
okay. Thank you. Mr. Snetsky?
Yes, I think I understand the rationale for having people enter at the inner parking lot. But that being said, and the facade along the VFW is reasonably attractive. But then we go to the facade along Lakeview Avenue, and you've just got a stone monolith there. I mean, it really doesn't enhance the neighborhood on that side, you know, with the design of the building on that side. I mean, you know, is there any way that that Lakeview Avenue facade could have a little more glass, a little more, you know, of the decorative aspects and so forth? Because right now, it's just, you know, if I'm reading it correctly, it's essentially a concrete wall with, you know, 2 small glass doors in it, which I assume are for, you know, legality of egress.
Yeah, and if you, there was floor plans included, but the northerly part of the building would be where the storage would be and whatnot. So both of those egresses would really be there to accept deliveries. And so there is a doorway there, there's an overhead door that, like I said, will remain. And then there's a glass door to the south or the left of that.
You just made a comment that those would be for deliveries?
No, that door is
Can you
not.
just give us your name for the record,
Yep,
please,
it's
sir?
Brian Wolburner, I'm the, that would be the contractor. The overhead door is gonna be just for storage, it's not where the deliveries would come from. And as far as that facade, you know, we do plan on, with EFS, dressing that area up a little bit more with some different architectural items or whatever, so. And the far side there, it really hasn't, we don't have a plan for that yet, but the other side of it, but we will dress that up.
You know, like you say, the VFW facade with, you know, I assume that's some wood features and the glass and, you know, the trim.
Yep.
You know, that's reasonably attractive, you know, certainly an improvement on what's there now.
Right.
But for the folks on the Lakeview Avenue side,
Yeah.
I mean, it's just a stone monolith.
Yeah, I mean, it's, right now, it's, I don't know if you've seen the building from that side right now, it's pretty rough, but.
That's what the building is now. I
Right,
mean, we're
right.
trying, you know, and you are, and
Yeah.
we are trying to improve
Yep.
the neighborhoods, improve
Sure.
the city. And other than being a little cleaner than what's there now, it's not attractive. It has little, if any, design elements to it.
Okay.
And, you know, you know, have to have that facing the other, you know, people in the neighborhood. There's residential, there's business. You know, I just, you know, think it's, let's just put it this way, that it doesn't do the best we could for the neighborhood.
Yep.
And, you know,
We would be open to.
yeah, I would,
Design options.
you know, definitely want to see some improved, you know, design elements on the Lakeview Avenue side of the building,
Sure.
you know, for me to approve this. Thank you.
Mr. Fischett?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, to Mr. Sinetsky's point, when you look at even the packet that you provided of the abutting properties, and I was out there again today, but all of the other retail businesses, they all have a storefront. And even the, I don't know, what's it called, Footy Goody Restaurant on the opposite side, but they do have windows facing Lakeview Ave, and it is a walking neighborhood. And when we approved the CVS that was right on the corner, we actually had them put false windows along Bridge Street, and so they could decorate it and make it more appealing to the neighborhood. And that fits in, and again, Jared did comment, it fits into the contributing to the master plan goal to increase neighborhood walkability, and would be similar to the way other nearby non-residential uses greet the street. you've helped to support that in the pictures that you provided. So we're trying to, really, every plan that comes before us is an opportunity. And I think we would all agree that is an unsightly building as it sits right now. It'll be nice to see a viable business go in there, but this is the opportunity to also enhance the neighborhood. And that's actually one of the criteria of the special permit. And so how does this improve the neighborhood and meet the neighborhood character? So I too, as Mr. Sinetsky, I wouldn't be prepared to approve this evening based on what we have here as a plan. I think that's, we've got a lost opportunity with this plan as it's presented. To Mr. Malovich's point, isn't it awful? And I've been by there a million times. I can't, so as it relates to, this looks nice. I'm not sure I like the big hand with the finger pointing, to be honest with you, but I'm not quite sure. Obviously, this part of the building is an improvement, but this is facing, so is this facing Bridge, is this finger pointing towards Bridge Street? Okay, yeah. All right, to loop around at that light and then take the left and then come around.
That's if you're in the right lane.
Right, right.
Is it a left turn allowed at that light?
I don't think so.
Is there, no, just a question, and maybe you know, Brian. If you were coming towards Bridge Street, and you have the light where people come across the VFW and come out and go out towards Bridge Street, is there a left turn allowed at that light?
There is.
There is, okay. I've never done it, I've never tried to do it, so I.
Yeah, at what time there wasn't?
Yeah, they
Okay.
changed this a while
It was
ago.
two lanes turning?
I just wasn't sure.
I can help you.
Okay,
I'm Jeff Schembeckler, the owner of Three Domino's Pizzas in Lowell, since 1986. If you're traveling on VFW toward Bridge Street, the only way to access that lot is to perform a U-turn at the intersection, which is currently legal. Does that answer your question?
U-turn at the Bridge Street intersection?
Correct.
Okay, that does answer my question. What I was asking is the light where it comes out of Lakeview Avenue and where people, heading towards Bridge Street on Lakeview Avenue, and it snakes to the right, and then you take the left to go, say, to Bridge Street, to the bridge to come into the city or whatever. I didn't think that if you were coming down the VFW towards Bridge Street, that a left turn was allowed at that light. And I think that you've answered that question.
You cannot turn left directly onto Lakeview Avenue. You have to proceed beyond Lakeview Avenue and make a U-turn at the Bridge Street intersection.
That being said, then I would definitely have a problem with the arrow, because I think that would definitely, create additional problems at the Bridge Street intersection, which is already extremely challenged. And although it may be legal, I don't ever recall somebody making a U-turn there. It may be legal. So that being said, access to your property is a different issue, but, pointing in that direction and encouraging people to take that type of a turn, I think would take a bad intersection and potentially make it worse.
So that was my point on that, so I think, and to Bob's point on that. I think I'd like the city's traffic engineer take a look at this, but I think at the very least, the pointing should go away, and certainly if you want to inform people there's parking on Lakeview Ave, I certainly understand that. I just think, to Bob's point, you're going to see that, whether it be an arrow or whether it be a finger, I think is problematic. But I think we want to have the city engineer, traffic engineer look at that. And also, again, I can't stress enough the design on Lakeview Ave. That's critical.
Yeah, and I agree with you. Those are not necessarily final drawings, and we agree that we should do some more to make that side of the building more attractive and intend to do so. So we're...
Because I'll tell you, the building that you put up on Mammoth Road, it looks nice and it fits in with the neighborhood business district. And again, I understand you're trying to take a concrete bunker and make it into a welcoming retail space. So I think you've got, I think there's some work to be done on Lakeview Ave, and I would encourage you to work with DPD for a final design plan to come before us on that. So I think that would be the biggest concerns. Also, the final landscaping, I would see what you can do with that to try to make that as attractive as possible coming back to us. But that coupled with making that facade a lot more attractive and not directing traffic or basically implying traffic to go around. And I think obviously having the city's traffic engineer review that, I think that would be the major issues I'd want to see addressed in order to make a decision on this. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Lockhart?
I'll just follow up. I agree with the comments regarding the Lakeview Avenue facade. That's really important. It is a walking neighborhood. And the more you can improve that visually, the better the project will be. Really just have one other question on this. That little building, the furthest to the right as we're looking at that, what's happening with that?
I can address that as well. I'm currently in negotiations to purchase that building.
Oh, this is not part, okay, all right.
You're talking about the Angie's Pizzeria that adjoins the building, closest to the Bridge Street intersection?
Sub shop type thing, yeah.
The owner of that building recently passed away, and the estate is being challenged, so they're going through that process. They hope to have something settled in August, not for sure, of course. And they have every intent to sell me the building, and I have every intent to buy it. Not for certain, but that's the intent.
Okay.
At which point I would demolish the building and refinish that side of it.
All right, that's what I wanted to hear. It doesn't really, not very appealing. All right, that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Just getting back to the sign there, would you have any objection if it just said parking in rear?
Well, I have no objections, no.
I mean, because obviously you don't want them pulling in off VFW, so you don't want a quick cut there. So, but yeah, if you just put the parking in the rear, I think, they would be able to find it pretty quickly. I mean, you're gonna drive by, you're gonna see it, if they know they can buy it. And then again, once people familiar themselves with have been there once, they don't know how to get there. So I don't have a problem with that. I do agree with the facade as indicated, especially where it's, again, if you're in the walking part of the neighborhood. So I don't have a problem if you have the parking in the rear, and, if you could do the facade on the Lakeview Ave side, similar to it, and whether they be real windows or fake windows, as Mr. Fischett said in the past, I don't have a problem with it, but I think you have to beautify that part of it. I mean, because, technically, if you did it the opposite way around, if you put this on Lakeview Ave and the other part on VFW, I don't think I have a problem with it at all, because I know you want to have this on VFW because you want the advertisement purposes of it all. But if this was just on Lakeview Ave, I think it'd have the type of neighborhood character that we'd want. I mean, for this type to have it look real nice to walk up to. So whether you can wrap it all something similar to that, but just to be like this, I mean, this looks like the back of a warehouse.
Yeah.
We'll come up with something that you'll love.
Okay, I got no problem with that, you know? Whether, I have no problem with it either way, I mean, yeah, I mean, I think, you know what the intent is, we have to make it look a little more pleasing. And I understand the one question about the door in the back, that we have the streets, I mean, people walking there, so they're gonna have to go down that, what is it, Bob, that yellow strip there?
Yeah, down the sidewalk.
So obviously you'll have lighting and everything else there, because you don't want to deter any foot traffic, right? I have no further comments. Whatever the board, what's the request of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I would propose that we continue this matter, subject to the applicant addressing the issues that we've discussed tonight. And do we have, what would be our next opening, Christine? I know we've got our summer schedule and a rather full schedule, but
We have 5 petitions that today was a deadline day for the July 16th meeting. Market Basket was not one of them.
Is not?
No.
Okay.
We have a special permit amendment, a site plan review for an expansion of a parking lot, a special permit for reduced frontage for a new house, a lot width special permit, and a site plan review and special permit for a development project that you'll hear next.
Okay.
For a different petition. That's July, and as of August, we don't know.
Because I believe we got comments today from Mr. Elves on one. Today, he sent out something to us today. Yeah.
yeah, for the
It was on the
July
Trotting Park, was
16th.
that it?
Yeah, you would have received probably Trotting Park. I think that was sent out today. But we did receive all 5 of these today.
Okay.
So none of them are large, but there are 5 of them. Except, they're all fairly narrow questions except for one, but it's still 5 petitions. We only have 1 meeting in July and we have 1 meeting in August.
Right, okay. Would this be something you could do by July 16th, or do you need more time, sir?
No, we can get it done.
Okay. All right.
Chair.
July 16th? That's
With
fine.
your approval, Mr. Chairman,
No,
to add...
that'll be fine with me. And that'll be the
add
last
this
matter we
to-
put on that night? Okay.
Yeah, well,
Motion
that's
out for
okay.
order of the board, please, okay?
I would propose a continuance to the July 16th meeting to give the applicant the opportunity to address the issues we've discussed tonight.
Because I think with the gentleman here, he knows what we're looking for. I think he comes back, he's going to show us a couple of different renderings and say which one you like. You like this one, that one? And I think we discussed everything else pretty much in detail.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, so motion made and second to continue to July 16th. Because I know they have some signs here, but they're too big. That's a,
Just for a brief look of the signs, they're going to have to go to the ZBA for approval because I think maybe for the size, but definitely for the internal illumination.
okay, yeah. By seeing some of this, okay, good.
Yeah. And we would make note of the finger point and inform the ZBA of your
I just think,
opinion.
if you put a parking in the rear, I think, to me, I can see a lot of tagging going with that finger. Okay?
Oh, yeah.
I work in a court system, I see tagging every single day just about. Some is very good, as they've done down in Lynn. They made the people who are doing it actually do some nice artwork on the buildings, and it comes out beautiful, but some of those, but, so. Good luck, we'll see you July 16th.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That'll work.
Thank you very much. All in favor of the motion, right, to continue it? Right.
Aye.
Yep. Motion was made by, Dick, you made the motion, right? And Bob, you second that?
Dick and I,
So you had Dick made the motion, Bob seconded it?
Yeah.
All in favor? Yeah, want to make sure you wrote it all down, Mike. Okay. Thank you. You didn't leave yet?
Still here?
I saw your briefcase, I thought you might have forgotten.
I'm gonna go, Bob.
What are you going on to Spinners?
What is it?
You're going to Spinners. Hey, I don't know if we... Oh, so you're in the rezone too, okay. Okay,
What is this?
this is the rezoning. Okay, so let me get back to my.
Oh, that's, okay. All right.
Get my- Oh, yeah, okay, yes, yes. Put okay. Hopefully you can get her stipend. So moving along on the agenda, we have a rezoning petition. Oh, I'm sorry, I'll just read it while you think. What else do we have?
Do you need more?
All dunes, boy, that's a dump.
Mr. Chairman, George Theodoro.
Just give me 1 second till he gets back, okay? Thank you. Yeah,
Really?
you just look at. Okay, moving along on the agenda, we have a rezoning petition, which is, rezoning petition was at 232, 234, 268 Mount Vernon Street, 294 School Street, 5 Bonham Street. The petition seeks 2 separate extensions. The first extension proposes extending the light industrial manufacturing and storage L1 zoning district to a portion of 294 School Street, currently zoned urban mixed use, and a portion of 268 Mount Vernon Street and the entire 5 Bonham Street parcel, currently zoned urban neighborhood multifamily zone. Secondly, the rezone petition proposes extending the UMU zoning district to 232, 234 Mount Vernon Street and the remaining half of 268 Mount Vernon Street.
Mr. Chairman, before we begin testimony, for the record, I will be abstaining on this matter.
Thank you. May we hear from the applicant, please?
Mr. Chairman, George Theodoro, 133 Market Street, representing the applicant. Broadway Street Holdings, Inc., also as part of this petition, and interested parties associated with this is the Owl Stamp Company and the Megan Foundation. This rezoning petition is unique in that the properties at 268, 234 Mount Vernon Street and 5 Farnham Street are owned by the city of Lowell. So this is a rezoning petition that was done and formulated with the advice and counsel of the city of Lowell, and through an RFP in which Broadway Street Holdings was the successful bidder. It involves the purchase and acquisition of these properties, being 268 Broadway, 268 Mount Vernon, 234 Mount Vernon, and 5 Farnham. And the RFP also includes the redevelopment of properties that are owned by the applicant at 498 Broadway and 32 Mount Vernon. So what this rezoning petition proposes to do, and the purpose of it, is to allow for this request for a proposal to go forward with the council of the city, to allow for the purchase of these city-owned properties, and more importantly, the net effect of all this would be to allow for the redevelopment and the development of these properties for the benefit of the city, and for the conclusion in the development of the RFP. Now, the properties in question that we're talking about, the city-owned properties, have been owned by the city since 2006. They were acquired they were the old Friend Lumber Yard that were acquired by the city through what we would call a friendly taking. And the city purchased those properties and have owned them for the last 12 years. And those properties are all part and were acquired as a part of the Acre Revitalization Project. and the city is looking for, all these years, to look for an opportunity to develop these properties, to find a developer, and then finally what they had decided was to put forward a request for proposals that would redevelop those properties. And what happened was that Broadway Street Holdings, who owns the properties, we'll call it the Muldoon site at 498 Broadway, and the adjacent property they own at 32 Mount Vernon, the parties combined forces in a joint venture, meaning Broadway Street Holdings, the Megan Foundation, and the Owl Stamp Companies, and presented this request for proposal to the city to develop this entire parcel. And as part of the thought process in bringing that forward, it was decided that the best way to do this, the most efficient way to do this, to allow for the proposed uses of these developers, would be to rezone the property. So actually, as you stated, there are two rezoning requests within this entire parcel. And it's unique in that it's an irregular parcel as well. And what this will allow for is one zoning change that was proposed here, is to take the parcel from the National Grid property, which is located just off of Rock Street, and that is a light industrial zone, to extend that light industrial zone up Mount Vernon Street to the city-owned property of 294 School Street, which is not part of the acquisition here, but it's necessary in order to effect the zoning change, to move it up to 294 School Street, across Rock Street, and then across Mount Vernon Street, where the zone will change to light industrial for 5 Farnham Street, which is a city-owned property, and a portion of 268 Mount Vernon Street was a city-owned property. And then the other zoning change, and the second rezoning allows for the extension of the urban mixed-use zoning, which starts at we'll call it the Muldoon property at 498 Broadway, which is privately owned by the applicant, and extend it from Broadway further down to 34 Mount Vernon and to a portion of 268 Mount Vernon. Now, by making these zoning changes, this will enable the applicants to develop the property in the manner that with the city's council as well, is the best use of the property to develop it. And just to give you a bit of a background on each one of these entities that are involved, we have S&R Corporation, which is the construction corporation, which is part of Broadway Street Holdings, Inc. They are a major concern, a single-use contractor specializing in all areas of construction. They will be developing the front portion of this property, being the Muldoon property, 498 Broadway, 32 Mount Vernon, and also a portion of 34 and 268 Mount Vernon. The property that is going to be rezoned for light industrial is critical to this, in that it is going to involve the relocation of the Owl Stamp Company, which is a business that has operated in the city of Lowell since 1912, actually, and is currently owned by Mr. Peter Bergeron, who is here tonight, who's owned it since 2002. He's going to relocate this facility to Broadway and operate his printing business there. What we propose to do is build a commercial building on that site for the light industrial manufacturing for the Owl Stamp Company, and the other side is going to be owned and operated by the Megan Foundation. And the Megan Foundation has played a major role in the city, and this again is unique in having a partnership with a for-profit and a not-for-profit entity, in which the Megan Foundation will, of course, they're involved in providing rehabilitation for alcohol and substance abuse. And part of their program also involves transitioning these people who have been involved with the treatment back into the workforce to give them skills and employment. And the Megan Foundation on that part of the property is going to go ahead and operate, and it is a screen print and embroidery and a relabeling business. And from what I know about the relabeling business, it's a part of a business where they may buy a lot of either clothing or some type of merchandise that was mislabeled, and then take it and relabel it for a customer. And as part of this process here, they're going to be providing employment and transitioning the members who have been successful in their treatment program back into the workforce. And what this is going to do, this zoning change, and the purpose of it, is perhaps, threefold, in that it's going to allow for this successful completion of the RFP. It is going to allow for Broadway Street Holdings to acquire these properties under a land distribution agreement, of which we have an approved agreement with the City of Lowell. We provided a copy with the materials herewith. It's not executed yet, but this is the final approved agreement. It will allow for the final execution of that agreement, and allow the parties to purchase the property from the city, and allow for this joint venture to continue, and allow for the redevelopment of this property. And as I said, this is a component, and the redevelopment of this property is a component of the acre revitalization plan. The city, at one time, historically, they were looking to add more residential development, but they thought it would be beneficial to allow for this to go forward, to promote this zoning change, to allow for this commercial development, and one portion of it in the mixed use up front, and would provide an additional tax revenue for the city. Also, what you'll hear today is from Joseph Genowitz, who's the City of Lowell Urban Project Director, who has been his participation in this, his advice in this, has been valuable, so valuable to this project, and he has submitted a letter of support, and he is also here to speak in support of this rezoning and of this development project. And also, what this will enable us to do, we kind of fast-track this, is to file our petitions for permits on this to move it forward as well. That being said, I know Joe would like to speak on this, and we have the plan, the approved plan that we have as part of the city ordinance and the zoning change before you. So we look forward to entertaining any questions that you may have.
Thank you. At this time, I'll turn it over to anybody who wants to speak in favor of this project. For the rezoning, thank you.
Good evening. My name is John Sumas, 62 Willie Street. I also own property on 1 Farnham Street, which is adjacent to the parcel that the city owns. I grew up in this neighborhood all my life. I knew the old Friend Lumber Building, Muldoon's. The Stocklosa School's a nice school that they built, I think it was 20 years ago. It's long overdue that we get something in that area. I think it's something I think the board should be in favor of, so hopefully the project will move along and get developed.
Thank you, sir. I also see that we have a letter in our packet. I'll read that now. This is from Tim Grover from the Megan House Foundation. Dear planning board members, I'm writing to ask that you support the rezoning of the parcels located at 498 Broadway Street, 5 Farnham Street, and 232, 234, and 268 Mount Vernon Street. With this rezoning, the city can help accomplish the goals set out in winning the response for the RFP 17-94. The main goals are as follows: major improvement to the Acre neighborhood by facilitating redevelopment of a long dormant parcel that is blight in the area. It would also allow for removal of the Muldoon gas station and redevelopment of the property. Increase property tax revenue for the city of Lowell. Creation of jobs as well as workforce development initiatives with the emphasis on people in recovery. Retain a long-standing existing Lowell business that has been trying to expand and create jobs in Lowell. Allow the continued growth and development of the Megan House Foundation to help address the opiate addiction in our community and the nation. In addition, the rezoning would also facilitate the development of much-needed housing units on a portion of the property. The project is a prime example of government, nonprofit, and private business coming together to solve problems and improve quality of life in our community. By supporting this rezoning, these goals can be achieved to the benefit of all. Signed, Tim Grover, Megan House Foundation. Anybody else like to speak in regards to this?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the record, Joseph Jenowitz, Urban Renewal Project Manager on behalf of the city. I think Attorney Theodoro gave a pretty good synopsis of some of the background thus far, and I also wrote a memorandum for you all to try to do that as well. Just a couple other points that to bring up for your consideration. So the city did acquire this property back in 2006, at least part of the property that's before you tonight. There have been a couple attempts to look at redeveloping the city's portion of this proposal before you tonight for purely residential purposes, but it never really got the kind of traction that the city was hoping for. Back in 2017, towards the beginning of 2017, the city received multiple inquiries about the property, really more commercial uses that were the focus of that. So that's what led the city to put out the RFP just a little over a year ago, saying that while it is called for residential in the Aiken Urban Revitalization Plan, that the city would be willing to entertain commercial uses on the property. And that's when the presentation that was before you did come in for the city's consideration, and the RFP review committee did recommend that to the city council. This proposal, redeveloped as it is before the board, as you'll see also in July, would allow the city to be able to put CDBG funds and home funds into nearby properties, which we haven't been able to do before because of the situation on the Muldoon property. But the redevelopment of that property, along with the city's property, will be able to allow the city to do that. That was a big consideration for this proposal. Again, you'll be seeing more of this proposal, in the next meeting. But the city is willing and eager to continue to work out details of the plan with the project proponents. So, if you have any other questions, I'm happy to
Joe, can I
answer
ask
them.
just one question? How does the 5 Varnum Street jump in here? I mean, when you first look at it, you see all the green, as the proposed zoning line, and that just seems to go all the way out and come back. And
I don't know.
Proposal, usually we try to, curve things off and cities and corners and stuff, but the way this just proposals out, and
I don't know.
I know it. When I did the site visit, I found that street when I'm out here a few times, but I'm just curious how that little sliver sticks out. What's the purpose of that piece?
Yeah, I don't know if there was some sort of easement or something like that at some point in time where there was some sort of access to the property from there. But that was a portion of the property.
So to pick that piece up, how does that benefit the rezoning, to rezone that street there? Does that have access for somebody coming in? Is that what the future goal is, or just?
That was originally the intent of the acre plan, was actually Farnham was going to connect over to Mount Vernon. So that was, eventually that was going to be redeveloped as a through street. But, at this point with the
because usually we just don't see that little.
Right. Yeah, that little jog there. Eventually that was going to be widened and it was going to carry over to Mount Vernon.
Okay.
But
thank you. I appreciate the answer on that. Yeah. Okay. Anybody else want to
One of-
speak this? Let me, okay, go ahead.
One of the other elements as well a positive element about, this redevelopment over here, which this will allow for the environmental remediation of the site, which is again part of a joint effort among the participants of the RFP. So I think the city is happy about that. That will allow this development to go forward.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else here this evening want to speak in favor of this project?
Members of the board, my name is Peter Bergeron from Lowell Stamp Company at 142 Middle Street. Just wanted to introduce myself. I work very closely with the Megan House Foundation, and we're cooperating on this project to allow the expansion of Lowell Stamp Company, which has served a lot of the businesses and nonprofits and organizations in the city itself and the community. We've been looking to expand for probably 3 or 4 years now, and we were kind of getting a little discouraged after a while trying to find a property. We had been working, one of the organizations that I supported very much is the Megan House Foundation, and as that organization was developing, we talked about a social enterprise that would provide workforce training and development for people in recovery. So we got together on this project to be able to create a situation where we could have internships and work opportunities to help transition people back into the workforce who are coming in out of recovery. This kind of dovetails with the project on Cross Street, which is another sober housing initiative from the Megan House Foundation. So we're kind of sacrificing part of our company to help support this social enterprise, the Megan House Foundation, and working with the folks at Broadway Street Holdings is helping support this effort as well by helping facilitate the development of the property and working together. So as has been detailed in the letter from Tim and in the little document that we put together, this is really a unique opportunity that you don't see very often, where you can bring all these parties together to accomplish so many goals all at once in a situation that desperately needs it on a lot of levels. The neighborhood property that we're dealing with, the blight of this opioid addiction we're dealing with, economic development for the city. It's just a win-win all the way around. So I just wanted to introduce myself, and if anybody has any questions for me, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else like to speak in favor? Favor? In favor? Anybody like to speak in opposition? In opposition? In opposition? Hearing none? Any of the board members have any questions? Mr. Lockhart?
I have none, no.
Not none? Okay. Mr. Elovich? Snetsky? No? The only question I had was Varnum Street, so. So this is 2 separate extensions, so we need 2 separate votes. Or is it just all partial and parcel, cut, paste together?
Well, we could do it all in one recommendation, so if you want to just do it in one vote to make it easier, and then we can clarify it in our memo to the city council.
I'll make a motion to approve the zoning change.
I'll second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none? 4 in favor, none against, 1 abstain. Motion carries. Good luck, wish you well.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome. Good luck.
It's a good project. Huh? Yeah, absolutely.
description came up. And he said, "Can I put my phone in it?" So I texted him back. I said, "He's panicking." Mercedes convertible that he drives in the summer. The finance guy with you. Okay. And he's got a big Audi A8 that he drives, you know.
So moving along on the agenda, do we have any further comments from any board members, or Mr.
Yes,
Lockhart?
I have, all of a sudden, our historic board is getting very busy. We have a July 9th meeting. We're looking at 279 Dutton Street, you know, the candle company.
Okay.
Meadows, is that how you pronounce it? That's going residential. It's been a while since we've seen that. 484 Merrimack Street, the Royal Theater.
Oh, yeah, that's what we did the site plan on, right?
We did the site plan on that.
That's
and
before you, in July 9th?
July 9th.
Okay.
And then there's some new construction going up at 160 Middlesex Street. It's now a vacant lot. It's at the corner of South Street, that we're looking at as well.
Thank you.
And I just might add, I want to give our administrator, Steve Stoll, a plug. He works very hard on these things. I've noticed a number of emails back and forth with the Lapoli group. There's a little parcel of property when you turn into Gallagher Terminal on the left. There's a piece of property right there that they're going to develop into an outside patio area.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And I believe it was purchased from the state, if I'm remembering right. That's coming to fruition. It's going to be really nice, that whole thing there. So we got a lot going on. That's a good sign, I think. That's all.
Okay, thank you. No, nothing from any other board members? No. Anything from staff? No? Christine?
279 Dutton Street that Member Lockhart mentioned will be in front of you for July, because they already got a special permit from this board to renovate it to 4 units, and they want to up it to 6, and it's going in front of the historic board, because they actually want to put another story or 2 on the building. So you'll get those plans also.
Okay, thank you.
Chris is, Chris Natalie doing that job, isn't he?
Yes, Chris Natale and George Theodoro is representing him.
Yeah, okay, I thought I remembered. It's been a while. That'd be nice.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I will be recusing myself on that particular matter.
Okay, all right. So if no further business, we can entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved?
So moved.
Motion's made and seconded by Mr. Lockhart. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Good night, and thank you, everybody. Thank you very much. Go ahead. Do you have a question for us?